Hey everyone, I'm the Pixel Pathfinder. 2025 is here. If we look back at 2024, we got a ton of incredible releases for video games. Everything from indie games getting nominated for Game of the Year to new standout AAA titles and everything in between. It was quite the year, and looking ahead into 2025, it looks like we might be set for another pretty amazing year of video games. And with that, I want to bring you my top 20 games for 2025. There are so many games out there, so many games I'm excited about that didn't make this list, but I really tried to hone it in, narrow it down. Not every single game on this list has a confirmed 2025 release date, but I did try to pick things that I thought might make it this year, whether that was at least an early access format or some other kind of form. So we're going to get into this and we're going to kind of blaze through numbers 20 through 11, just kind of knock those out. We're going to spend a little bit more time on 10 through 6, and then we're going to spend even more time on the top 5 here so that I can just convey how excited I am for some of these games. So let's hop in and start with number 20, Civilization 7. So Civilization 7 made this list because I just like the Civilization games and have enjoyed playing them ever since Civilization 5 came out. I spent a ton of time in that game. I spent a little bit amount of time in Civilization 6, but the things I'm seeing and the changes that they're making for Civilization 7 actually have me the most excited I've been for a Civilization game in a while, so I'm really looking forward to getting the chance to play this. In at number 19, we have Alzara, Radiant Echoes. So this is one of a slew of different kickstarted indie JRPG titles that are coming out here in the near future. Whether in 2025 or 2026, it kind of remains to be seen. But this one is one that kind of stood out to me just based on the vibrancy of its art style and its world, and also the pretty solid looking combat system that it has put together. I'm not quite sure this one will come out in 2025, but I'm looking forward to maybe get to play an early access or a demo of it this year at the very least. Let's move on to number 18, which is going to be Starvaders. Starvaders is a game that I've played here on the channel. I showcased it here. It's a roguelike deck building game, like many other games, especially ones that I tend to play. But it's really interesting in the fact that you choose a pilot and you choose a mech, and then what you do is for combat, you get onto a grid, but that grid is set up as if you were playing something like Space Invaders, where these aliens and machines are trying to invade your space, and you have to defend against those waves with your mech. It's a pretty interesting change up to the deck building combat at the very least, and it looks like it's going to have a good variety of characters, builds, and it'll be pretty fun. Moving on to number 17, we have Pathbreakers Roaming Blades. This is the next game from the developer that created Fell Seal, Arbiter's Mark, which was a sort of spiritual successor to Final Fantasy Tactics. They're back here with another tactics-based game, this time going for more of a roguelike and procedurally generated approach. So the world that you start in is procedurally generated. It has procedurally generated dungeons, biomes, different things like that, and you are the leader of a mercenary band that can choose to focus on maybe taking contracts, focusing more on the merchant and trading aspect of things, or on the exploration side of things. Once you've got your band together and you pick your path, you kind of head out into the world and just do whatever it is that you want to do. You can customize your characters. They've got a bunch of different classes you can play as, and those classes all have different branching classes. And just based on their pedigree, I'm really excited to see what their next game is going to bring us. Number 16 is a remake of a classic that I really enjoyed, Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Metal Gear Solid series in general. The only one I've actually been able to play through 100% was Snake Eater. And now they're remaking Snake Eater for modern times and modern equipment, and it looks like a fantastic remake. And honestly, just looking at the trailer got me really reminiscent about when I played it before, and I'm looking forward to getting to play it again, but this time much more modern and updated. For number 15, we have Handmancers. Handmancers is another game that I've covered here on the channel, And it's another game that takes the deck building foundation and gives it a really interesting twist. In Handmancers, you actually fight your enemies by playing very complicated versions of rock, paper, scissors. The artwork is fantastic. They've got a nice trailer out that kind of sets the tone for maybe some world building or story. And all in all, I had a great time with the demo, and I'm looking forward to the game in 2025. For number 14, we have Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is a JRPG style game that's set in a sort of French fantasy universe, and honestly, the visuals for this game, the enemy designs, the encounters, the menus, the combat, everything is just breathtakingly amazing looking. And honestly, that's kind of carrying it a lot for me in terms of my level of excitement. I think that it looks like it's going to have really good world building. The premise is something that I think is not necessarily insanely original, but it's got its own character to it, and it's really good for what it is supposed to do. So in the game, basically, there's this painter who paints this number on this giant monolith. And that number corresponds to the age of people in the world. And anyone who has that age basically just gets Thanos off the planet. And so you are part of an expedition that's heading to the monolith to try to stop the painter so that no one else has to die, essentially. But all in all, it just looks like something fresh, something new, especially in terms of the world that it's set in. And for that reason, I'm pretty excited to check it out. In at number 13, we have Shadow of the Road. Now, initially, I thought this game was the next game from Owlcat Studios, which is the studio behind the Pathfinder and the Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader games, which I really, really enjoyed. However, that's not the case. Owlcat has now expanded into being a publisher, and Shadow of the Road is one of the first games that they are publishing. So this isn't actually from Owlcat. If it was, it probably would have made it higher up on the list. But that being said, it still looks like a really awesome game. It's a CRPG set in feudal Japan, but also mixed with some sort of steampunk, advanced technology elements, as well as some fantasy elements in the form of yokai and monsters. It looks really, really sick, really slick. I love the setting, and I've really been enjoying these CRPGs from Owlcat. So even though they're not developing this one, if it has their backing, then I'm still pretty excited about it. At number 12, we have Dark Deity 2. Now, this is a game I've been excited about for quite a while, and I don't know if it would have made this list or if it would have been as high up on this list if they hadn't surprise released a demo. I played the demo. I actually recorded some footage for it to be published here on the channel. And man, it was really, really fun. The combat is fast. It's snappy. The character customization looks really awesome. It's a Fire Emblem style tactical RPG, which if done right can be incredibly fun. And I think that Dark Deity 2 has a really promising future ahead of it, and I'm excited to get to play more of it in 2025. At number 11, we have As We Descend. Now, this game actually had a demo that I missed the opportunity to play because it had a cutoff when they shut it down, and I didn't realize that. And it makes me pretty sad because it's pretty high up on the list here. This is another deck builder that made the list for really twisting the foundation of the genre. So in this, you are essentially descending into these depths. You're attacked by titanic monsters, and you are fighting those monsters using squads of different units. And each of your squads has its own deck, which is based around the types of units that you have in it. So all in all, this just looks like it's a really interesting and awesome looking take on the deck building genre. And considering it's my favorite genre, but also one of the ones I'm pretty burnt out on, I'll take anything that looks a little bit different compared to what we've been getting lately. Now we're moving on to the top 10, and in at number 10 is Bramble Royale. Bramble Royale is a game I've made content for here on the channel. You can go check out that video if you like. It is another sort of deck builder, but not really. So this is the next game in the Meteor Falls series, which is a series that has also spawned Crummets Tale, which I have footage of here on the channel as well. And that was one of my favorite deck building games. I played the demo for Bramble Royale, And I got to tell you, it's a lot of fun. It's everything I've come to expect from a Meteorfall game. And for that reason, I know it's going to be quality and I'm going to get a lot of hours of playtime out of it. And really, it doesn't need much more than that. That's really what it comes down to for me. And that's why I'm excited for Bramble Royale in 2025. In at number 9, we have Pirates Outlaws 2. And I'm pretty sure most of you haven't heard of this game, and you probably haven't heard of its predecessor, Pirates Outlaws. Pirates Outlaws was a little-known deck builder that came out a few years ago. And honestly, I don't think it did anything too crazy in terms of being unique or anything like that, but I just really, really enjoyed playing it. It's a pirate-themed deck builder with a really interesting and refreshing art style that's fun to look at. There are a bunch of different classes, some kind of interesting mechanics with ammo and things like that, but nothing that I would say is like groundbreaking by any means. It is just a really solid deck builder that I put a really high amount of hours into. And when I saw that they were announcing a sequel, I just got really hyped because you know what? We still haven't had another like bright, interesting tropical island exploration pirate style deck building game. And I'm excited to get more hours out of a sequel to a game I put a ton of hours into. In at number 8, we have Threads of Time, and this is another one of these slate of kickstarted indie JRPGs that we've gotten over the past couple of years here. This one, however, is the one that I am the most excited about. In this game, you basically go to different eras throughout time. So the Threads of Time title there, it kind of signals to you what the game's going to be about. All the way back in like primitive dinosaur times, all the way into super futuristic apocalyptic times. The visuals look absolutely stunning in this game. I love the art style. I love the character design. We've got like kind of a pixel style, but it's really high quality and still has a lot of detail to it. The spell effects, the camera angles, everything else, it really just looks like someone is writing a love letter to the JRPGs of the past, but they're doing it with modern technology, modern equipment, and modern game design techniques, and that makes it look pretty darn fantastic to me. In at number 7, we have a game that I definitely did not think would be on this list at all. It was just recently announced at the Game Awards show, and that game is Dispatch. So Dispatch is the type of game that I typically would not play. It seems to be more of like a visual novel or interactive fiction piece of work. But it's designed by some of the people who did games like The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, and Tales from the Borderlands, which are all sort of Telltale games. So if you think about those kind of games, this is going to be in a similar vein. Although I will say, based on the trailers, I feel like it might have more gameplay involved. Either way, in this game, you play as a character who was a former superhero, and you're tasked with now becoming a dispatch operator for superheroes throughout the city. So when things happen, you have to dispatch the right hero to the right place at the right time. And it just so happens that the squad that you're in charge of is a bunch of ex-supervillains. It's not very often that a game gets me interested in the story, the plot, and the characters over the gameplay, but this is one that did it. I am always looking for interesting games that are based on a superhero setting, and I honestly just hardly ever find any that line up with my expectations and what I really want to see. But when I saw the trailer for Dispatch and what was going on, not only was I intrigued by this story and the characters, but I thought that it actually looked like the type of world, the type of universe that I would want to immerse myself in. And for that reason, it made this list. And honestly, I wouldn't have expected it to break the top 10, but it absolutely did the more and more that I looked into it. And the more and more I thought about playing it, the more excited I got and the more anticipation I have for it. In at number 6, we have a game that I've been excited about for a couple of years now, and that is Aethermancer. So Aethermancer is the follow-up game from the creators of Monster Sanctuary, which was a really fun sort of creature collection, Pokemon-style Metroidvania hybrid that was really interesting, and I really appreciated for the amount of depth that there was in customizing the monsters that you had. In Aethermancer, they've gone for more of a roguelike approach, where you start out, You get your monsters, you collect more monsters along the way. As you explore and head out into the different regions, you're going to fight other monsters, collect more monsters. If your monsters die during that time, it's permadeath because this is a roguelike mode. And you do kind of all the normal stuff there. They've got a pretty cool system of Aether, which you can kind of think of as like elemental mana, maybe akin to like Magic the Gathering's mana system or something like that, where you essentially have to generate and spend mana in order to cast different abilities based on the Aether types of the creatures in your party. Once you're done with a run, you go back and there's meta progression within the town that you start out from. And so all in all, it just looks really, really fun. It looks like something that you can pop in, do a run. I love that it has the monster collection aspect included in there. The graphics look fantastic, and I just liked Monster Sanctuary enough that I'm excited to see whatever this studio does next. All right, now we're getting into the top 5, and we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about these than we have on the previous games. And we're starting off with number 5, which is a game called Chaos Zero Nightmare. Chaos Zero Nightmare is the next game from the developers that created Epic 7. It's another mobile/PC gacha style game, and I never would have thought that one of these would have made my top 20 of any year, and especially not the top 5. However, Epic 7 is a game that while I was late to the party on being able to play, I definitely appreciated the quality that's been put into it. It's not a game that I play on the regular or anything, but I've dipped my toe in every now and again and played for several hours at a time. I know that this company produces quality work, and this time, not only are we seeing the next iteration on what they can do graphically and in terms of like their animations, UI, and world building, but they've also brought essentially a deck building style combat system to the game, which, as you know, that's a genre I'm very into. So seeing a company like this bring this game that has just rock solid visuals, some very interesting animation and story beats that I'm seeing in some of the cutscenes, bring all that, apply it to a deck building game, and one that you're going to be able to continue to play for years and years as they iterate and update content, has me pretty darn excited. And I'm really hoping that this game turns out awesome. Because it definitely looks like something that I would play on the regular as kind of like a game to play in between things, or potentially when, I just kind of want to put something on and don't necessarily want to have to focus 100% of my attention on it. So I'm really excited to see what happens with this game in 2025. At number 4, we have a really unique game called Sunderfolk. Sunderfolk is coming to us from a studio that's composed of several ex-Blizzard and Riot and other types of studio devs. And it's one of the first projects that they're creating, but it looks so fun, so interesting. It's combining all the things that I like about gaming into a single game. So first off, it's a fantasy-style game. It has an emphasis on cooperation, and in particular, couch co-op. And it also is turn-based and plays kind of like a board game. So essentially what you get out of this is a fantasy board game that you can play cooperatively with people in your own living room. And that just sounds awesome to me. It's got a gimmick where you essentially connect to the game with your cell phone. So everybody who's playing connects with that, and they use that to control their characters on the screen, look at their character sheets, reference rules, different stuff like that. But everything that they've shown about this game has basically said, hey, our emphasis is first and foremost on creating the most awesome couch co-op experience that we can, and everything else is secondary. I think this looks really fantastic. This is a game I'd love to be able to just plop down on the couch, whip out a cell phone, and maybe play through a campaign with my wife. I think this could be a really good game to get into and maybe play with a group that comes over consistently, to have dinner or to hang out and play games in the future. And so I'm just really excited about the potential of Sunderfolk. I think it's a game that I'll end up playing regardless of whether I have, a full group or not. But I think with a full group, this could be a really great experience for anyone who likes to hang out and game. They kind of said game nights are back in their trailer. And honestly, that's kind of what this feels like to me. Now we're breaking into the top 3, and we're going to kick it off with number 3, which is Atelier Yumiya. I tend to have a general distaste for any sort of game that makes you go out and collect things and bring them back and craft with them. It's just not a gameplay loop that I really enjoy. But the thing about the Atelier games is that they do that, but then when you bring them back to craft, the crafting system is really intricate and interesting and a lot more than pick a recipe and, press build. So those games have gotten me really intrigued because I've said to myself, you know what, if I have to go out and collect these ingredients, at least coming back to a intricate and interesting crafting system might make the game feel a little bit better. So I've really been wanting to get in and check out the Atelier games. I actually picked up a couple of them, one for myself, one for my wife, who really does like the crafting stuff. But then I found out about Atelier Yumiya coming out in early 2025, and I said, you know what? That actually looks like the Atelier game that would fit me the best. So a couple of things about Yumiya that make it stand out to me compared to the other Atelier games. One, it's set in a vast open world. So you just kind of go out and explore. And I like that open world context. When I played a little bit of Infinity Nikki, I kind of liked that gameplay loop there. And this looks like it'll probably be something fairly similar. And I think if you were to take open world games and replace the combat with going out to get resources and stuff like that, it actually wouldn't be too bad. On top of that, the visuals and the setting that it's in look very Final Fantasy, which is definitely a little bit more to my taste, even though I do like the cute and vibrant settings from the other Atelier games as well. And on top of that, some of the story beats that I picked up from the trailers I've been watching actually had me pretty intrigued. There seems to be this whole plot with Yumiya and her mother, and alchemists are generally not seen as a good thing in this world, and so she's wondering about the legacy that her mother left, whether she was a good person or a bad person, etc. And all in all, I think for someone who's kind of been waiting to get into the Atelier games and kind of looking for the one that's the right fit, this is the one that looks the most like a right fit for me. And I've been really excited to check this series out. So this makes it into the number 3 spot for me for my most anticipated games of 2025. Moving on to number 2, a surprise announcement from 2024. Can't believe this is happening, but I am so excited that it is. Number 2 on my list is Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. So Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era is a follow-up to the Heroes of Might and Magic series that we've had in the past. There have been several of these that have come out, but pretty much everybody kind of throws it back to the third one as sort of the pinnacle of the series. And since then, we've had some actual like Heroes of Might and Magic style games that have come out, and we've had some spin-offs or some games that kind of heavily draw from that. Things like Songs of Silence, Songs of Conquest, Silence of the Siren, etc. And while all those games have merit and value to them, for some reason they just don't hit the magic of Heroes of Might and Magic 3 for me. And I've been thinking about this for a while, like what are the things about it that just don't ring true to me? And you know what one of the biggest things is for me? Is the Heroes of Might and Magic series had these epic, awesome looking cityscapes that you go into when you're leveling up, when you're building, you're recruiting, and these games just seem to be missing this and missing it at the quality that we had in Heroes of Might and Magic 3. Well, guess what? Those are back in Heroes of Might and Magic Olden Era. It's called Olden Era because it is a throwback to those games, to those original games that we had from Heroes of Might and Magic 1, 2, 3, etc. And it looks so good. The graphics look awesome. The immersion looks awesome. I think there's going to be 6 different playable factions at launch. The cities look absolutely amazing. The units look great. The maps look great. And there's just something about the magic of the Heroes of Might and Magic games that I haven't been able to catch on to with any of the other games like that I've tried. And I just think that this is going to be the game that does it. I really do think that this is going to be the game to play. I really hope they don't mess it up. Please don't mess it up, okay? I've been jonesing to play one of these, but man, it's hard to get into some of the ones that have come out recently. They don't, to me, provide the same level of immersion, and that's really what I want, and I think Olden Era is going to get us there. So here we are at the #1 most anticipated game of 2025 here on the Pixel Pathfinder. And if you know anything about me and you've been paying attention to gaming news at all over the past couple of months, you already know what this game is. There aren't many games that could take the #1 spot from this one, and those games are ones that I don't even know if they'll ever get made. So with that in mind, #1, most anticipated game of 2025, Slay the Spire 2. You had to know that was coming. Did you get it right? I mean, come on. Slay the Spire is the penultimate deck building game. It is the game that I've invested the most time in on Steam that's not a live service game. And it is one of the games that I actually played the day it came out in early access. I actually streamed it on Twitch. I think I was one of the first people to actually stream Slay the Spire, even though, you know, I had no viewers and it didn't get anywhere. And I played the heck out of this game. I actually just recently picked up the Slay the Spire board game and played that, and that's incredible. So moving into the announcement for Slay the Spire 2 was like, yep, 100%. Day one playing it, I don't care. They could come out with a menu screen with music, and that's all it would be. And I'd still pay for it. I'd still buy it. I'd still play it. So what are we looking forward to in Slay the Spire 2? Well, one of the big things here is we are getting a massive graphics and animation update. I read some different blogs from the developer talking about how when they originally created the game, obviously they were just kind of like putting stuff together with straw and mud, essentially, in terms of like trying to get the pieces all together. And then now with the success that they've had for Slay the Spire, they've got the opportunity to go back and actually create like animation rigs and things like that where they can do a lot more than they could in the first game. So what we should get out of Slay the Spire 2 is a lot more immersion, a lot more cool spell effects, attack animations, event animations, and things like that. So all in all, I mean, it just looks like more Slay the Spire at a higher level of quality and a higher level of immersion, and that is a dangerous combination. A dangerous, dangerous combination that I'm sure I will lose many, 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 many hours to. And I can't wait. I hope that we get our hands on this really, really soon, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. So that is my top 20 games for 2025 that I'm anticipating here on the Pixel Pathfinder. Again, many, many games did not make this list. I think I narrowed this list down from about 70 to 20. So there's still many more games out there that I'm highly anticipating that just didn't make the list here. So let me know in the comments section below, what are your top games that you're most anticipating in 2025? And did you find anything on this list that you didn't know about and maybe you're excited about now? All right, let's get ready for this new year, new games, new content here on the channel. If you enjoyed the video, like, share, and subscribe. But most importantly, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It really does help the channel a lot. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch one of my videos. And as always, I'll see you on the next one.